Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, we got another special guest this week, but first off, how are you this overcast Sunday morning?
Overcast Sunday morning is right, James. I'm doing all right. Living the dream, my friend, but just enjoying getting closer and closer to this draft season, NFL draft 2025 coming up very, very soon. We're getting closer. We're not quite in the right month yet, but we're almost there. James, how are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'm with you. The excitement is building. The picture is getting a little bit more understandable, although the biggest question is still out there. But we're going to get into all that as we go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James, real quick, before we bring on our special guest, let's discuss a couple things that happened with Pittsburgh currently and former players. Steelers did claim a new offensive guard from the New England Patriots. James, you want to talk about him?
Yeah, Lecitus Smith. He's been in the NFL for a couple of years now. He was drafted, so they are assuming his contract, so there's a little bit of money involved in that. Got some experience at the guard position, also a little bit of experience at the tackle position. So we've got a guy with some position flexibility, and this is probably pretty important because Pittsburgh didn't do anything thus far in the offseason as far as shoring up the offensive line depth. Typically, they'll bring in a guy or two from free agency. So a move like this does help shore up that depth, give Spencer Anderson and the backup center somebody to play around with a little bit. So we'll see who else is brought in. I'd like to see Calvin Anderson return as well, but this is a nice addition to the group for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. In other news, former Pittsburgh Steelers Russell Wilson did sign a 1-year contract with the New York Giants, which is good for up to $21 million if he hits all of his incentives. This is the second quarterback from last year that went to New York. So both are now in New York. One's on the Jets, one's on the Giants. So very interesting there to see how that goes. But this is the fourth player right now that's going to play a factor into the compensatory pick for next year. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, and it feels like this is just Pittsburgh playing chess while everyone accuses them of playing checkers. It's a long play for next year's draft class to really load up, and not just load up on draft picks, but ones of good value. Yeah. So the ones that are kind of concreted right now, Dan Moore's definitely getting us a third, and then we've got a sixth coming on one of the other ones. Right now, Justin Fields is slated to be a fourth, but I understand there are some incentives in that contract where it could possibly become a third-round pick. So you want to cheer for Justin Fields to have as good a season as possible. Same idea with Russ. This is a $10.5 million base contract that can go all the way up to $21 million with a good chance of getting in between there somewhere. If he stays at 10.5, it's only a fifth-round pick. If he gets in between, it's a fourth-round pick. If he gets all the way into the playoffs and wins some games and makes some noise, we're talking about an additional third. So Pittsburgh could, best-case scenario, have 3 compensatory third-round picks next year. And I understand one of those, I think it's the Dan Moore qualifies to be like the second best one.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation where we could really be loaded up on day 2 draft picks, which are great ammunition if you're trying to move up in the first round to get a franchise quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate that would be happening next year. It's unfortunate we're going to have to go through probably a rough year, whether it's with Aaron or something else. But I don't see, unless something crazy happens, I don't see Pittsburgh trading up for a quarterback this year.
There's no reason to.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, you're giving up assets
there's enough options of guys that could fall that they could still bring in to have for camp and to put a body there and to see what they can do. People talked about, Jackson Dart's been a big name, talked about Jalen Milroe's been a big name talked about.
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders. There's a lot of people saying he's going to fall to 21 now, and Pittsburgh could possibly take him there.
There's no way. I don't think that's going to happen just because of the name Sanders, but we'll see what happens. But very, very interesting to see how this works. And loading up on draft picks next year is a huge thing, even if you're not considering quarterback. There's a lot of positions that Pittsburgh still needs help with.
Yeah.
And having some good draft picks is going to definitely help that. James, it's going to be now time to share your mock draft. But before we do that, a word from our sponsor.
So, supporters of Steelers by the Lake podcast include the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, serving a variety of lunch and dinner items every day from their location at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh. Information is at 814-734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you had me at hotel.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of Edinburgh Hotel, someone that I frequent there often with, especially during football season, and who was actually there last night. Time to introduce our special guest for 2 weeks in a row now, James.
Woo!
Mr. Nicholas Pretzel.
Thanks for having me, guys.
How was dinner last night?
It was wonderful. Went there with the wife. We were catching some of the March Madness games. It was a great atmosphere. They also had the Pittsburgh Pirates game on. So if you're not familiar with the hotel bar, owner Pat is a great guy, and he's always got the Pittsburgh sports on. Whenever they score, the sirens go off. It's a wonderful time. So had myself a big juicy burger, and couldn't have asked for a better way to spend my Saturday night. So I know they're a sponsor, and it sounds like I'm just glazing them up here, but it's honestly very true. Great atmosphere, great place. If you have a chance, stop by the hotel bar.
I may have to go there for lunch today. I haven't figured out what I'm eating for lunch yet. That may be the option. But James, so real quick for everyone that's listening or watching, James is going to share his second mock draft of this mock draft season. And then we're actually going to do one live on the show for you guys. So we're going to go through it, see the situations that we're in and kind of view all those things. So we will be doing that after James shares his. But James, the floor is yours. Let's see what we can do in this draft. I'm excited to hear what you got.
So changing gears a little bit, you guys, if you've been listening for a little while, you heard my first one on the season, and that was before we made the trade for DK Metcalf, so I had a second-round pick to play with, which was a lot of fun, but I don't have that this time around. So I went a completely different direction, and I'm hoping to catch some people off guard completely. It's not anything that Nick has done. It's not anything that Cody did, so I'm going to try and introduce some more thoughts and some new names here to the group. So first round came around, and I wanted to do something that I think is building a little bit of momentum. So with the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Nick Emanwari, safety. So there's been an increasing number of interviews and pro day visits by the Pittsburgh Steelers front office with the top safeties in this class, whether it be Malachi Starks, Nick Emanwari, the Watts kid, all four of the top recruited prospects for this year's draft class. Pittsburgh has met with all of them. There's a very clear interest in the highest level talent of safeties in this draft class. This is the most athletic one. Nick weighed in at 6'3", 220 pounds at the NFL Scouting Combine and ran a 4.38 40-yard dash. So you're talking like Cam Chancellor size guy, but with Troy Polamalu speed. So a completely different game-changing kind of guy. Somebody who could be a tight end eraser, a stud against the run, and can cover as well. Just a tremendous asset for any defense, and immediately someone that you could stick out there in like your big nickel situations, where they have three wide receivers, but you think there's a decent chance of a run. Stick them in the slot, and good luck them trying to run a guy that's basically the size of a small linebacker. So that's where I went round one. What do you guys think about a safety in the first round?
I mean, James, you know how I feel I've been struggling with the safety room since we drafted Terrell Edmonds because I never thought he was a good safety. I've hated watching Minka have to basically fight for his life back there, trying to help stop the run and stop the pass. I think going safety in the first round makes a lot of sense. It's been a while since we've had a solid dual threat safety room. We got to see a lot of improvement with both DeMonte KZ and Deshaun Elliott last year. Was excited to see slow progression because I think both of them in their own respect played a little bit better than Terrell. But I love the pick. I love getting a safety here in the first round and seeing what we can do. And the guys, 4.38 40 is fast for a safety. So
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, and I want to highlight the comment you made, James, about being a tight end eraser, especially in the division where we're going up against David Njoku twice a year, potentially still Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely twice a year.
Yeah.
And then also his ability to crash the box with Derrick Henry. And I know Nick Chubb's future is still up in the air, but if he comes back to any semblance of what he was after that injury and comes back to the Browns, still facing him. And even Mike Gesicki was lighting up the Steelers a little bit last year when we were facing the Bengals, which wasn't something I thought I would have to be saying. So this will be, I think this would be a huge asset to the team and would definitely be big for our division. And I mean, even when you get into the playoffs, you've got to face the Travis Kelce's of the world and
Dalton
those big
Kincaid
names.
or the Bills.
Yep.
It's the same idea. The top teams in the AFC all have a good tight end. So if you don't have somebody who can hang with them, you're just going to get smoked by them.
Yep, and that's the main reason I'm really liking this pick, even though it's not one that we see people make often. I think it would still be a wonderful asset to the team.
I look forward to having to memorize how to spell Eamon I'll tell you. So as you guys know, we don't have a second round pick. I opted not to trade back because in the scenarios I saw that if I traded back, Nick Eamon was no longer available and neither was Malachi Starks. And I wanted to land one of the two of those. So I'm at the natural pick in the third round, which is pick number 83. And you guys know how passionate I am about Pittsburgh reloading this defensive line in this draft class because of how deep it is and how talented it is. I feel like you got to get a guy kind of early, and you might even want to think about one late too. So third round is later than I would like to pick one, but it's the only option if you go a different option in the first round. I went with defensive tackle Joshua Farmer in the third round. He's 6'3", 305 pounds with 35-inch long arms, which you know how I feel about that arm length on offensive and defensive linemen, especially on the D-line if you want to be able to disengage from a block in the run game. Josh Farmer's a guy that fits the bill. Not the fastest guy in the world. He's a 5'1", 140, but that's not dead slow either. So I picture his fit being as a defensive end originally who can get a little bit pass rush juice in that nickel situation, an immediate upgrade over Larry Ogunjobi, and I like our defensive line already better than last year with the addition of Josh Farmer. What do you guys think on adding someone like him to this group?
I love it again. I think that, the first two picks, it's always a struggle for me. The defense isn't always the most exciting thing. Same thing with offensive line.
Yeah.
But addressing those big needs on defense are huge. Going the first three rounds without addressing a quarterback is going to make a lot of people question, especially if at that point we haven't brought in Aaron Rodgers. But again, like we talked about, next year could be the year for drafting a quarterback. Not sure what's going on there. But again, it's been a while since Cam Hayward has had a lot of help on that defensive front in the same way that I talked about Minka in the secondary. And so I think Farmer's probably going to be competing for a starting job if he were to be drafted with Keanu Benton or depending on how they positioned those guys on the defensive line. Would like him to put on a little bit more weight and if he's going to be that nose tackle guy. But again, it kind of depends on what they're using. I like the pick. I think the defensive line, again, top four need. It's quarterback. It's probably at this point quarterback, cornerback, safety, and defensive line. So you've addressed the two of the top four. So I love it.
Yeah, football is won in the trenches, as we always say, and to be able to bolster a line with a guy of that size is huge. I know he There's a couple of guys that go earlier in the draft that I think might be a little bit more athletic, but to be able to have that kind of frame and to be able to kind of bully those guys around, I don't think he necessarily needs to be as fast. Kind of like you said, be able to disengage with those extra long arms of his, and if he can learn a couple moves from Cam Hayward or a couple moves from even TJ on the outside, that could potentially bolster his set of rushing moves. I think we could see him really explode on this offense. He's got it's the right time to get a guy like this because we've got the mentors that are there to sort of help him to develop further as a rusher, and to take a guy in the third round that can sort of develop into that. I think that's a good move. And like Cody said, definitely a top 4 need. And as you said, I would like to take a defensive tackle or a defensive end a little earlier, but with the picks we're working with and taking a explosive guy like Nick Emanwari in the first, I don't hate going DT next.
Yeah, I think he'd be a nice addition to the room. And I think he'd be in your second wave on the nickel defense. You know, I think you still stay with Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton on that first wave, and then bring in Nick Emanwari, or not Nick Emanwari, but Josh Farmer. And then you can kind of tinker around with who your next guy is a little bit, whether you never know, maybe Logan Lee steps up and shows that he can be that guy. And we'll see how the rest of that defensive line room kind of shapes out here. But I had to bring somebody in because I feel like you can't go those first 3 rounds and not get one of these guys, because you're missing out on an opportunity for a guy that could be a starter for you for 10 years. And that's what Pittsburgh's been missing in drafts recently, in my opinion, is hitting on guys that get into their second contract. That's what they were so good at in the past. And it's not necessarily just first round pick, but your second, third, fourth round, you got to find starters in those rounds. And maybe not a starter year 1, but by year 2 or 3, you should be considering it. And by the time their rookie contract's up, you should be, yeah, we got to lock this guy down. We got to extend him. So I think that's something we could have with Josh Farmer. Now, 4th round, I'm again at the original round pick. So 4th round, pick 123. I'm addressing a position that both of you gentlemen addressed in your draft. But not the same guy, because it would be boring to do the same guy over and over and over. So I went with running back RJ Harvey. RJ is a lightning fast dude at 5'8", 205 pounds, ran a 4.4 40. So day 1, he's going to give you that explosive home run hitting capability that Pittsburgh just hasn't had in that running back room in a long time. You can slap him back there in the kick return duty and get Jaylen Warren off of that, which you can't afford to have your starting running back returning kicks anymore. Yep. So I feel like Pittsburgh has to address the running back room, and in that 3rd through 5th range is where I think they're going to do it. So that's my vote, is RJ Harvey in the 4th round.
I like it. Running back is probably I think offensive line would be considered the 5th need. Running back's probably the 6th. I mean, it's Jaylen Warren and the guy we just brought in from free agency right now. So there's
Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, Gainwell. There's not a lot of depth there. There's not a lot of, I mean, you can argue there's a lot of experience. Gainwell's been in the league for a little while. But again, getting another guy that could be like a 1-2 punch and fight for that backup position. Jaylen Warren at this point, I'm pretty sure has that starting job shored up. But man, just getting another body back there that's fast and, kickoff potential as well. Hopefully we start seeing Calvin Austin a little bit more involved in the offense, get him away from even punt returns. Maybe you don't do Calvin Austin punt return. Maybe this guy can return punts. So I like the pick. Running back, again, another top need for Pittsburgh for sure.
I'm not overly familiar with Harvey, so I'd have to watch some more of his tape to have more of an opinion. But again, I think it's a need for sure, and one I'd like to see addressed earlier rather than later, because I think we need a guy who can be a contributor. I think like Jaylen Warren, obviously we want him in the starting position for right now, and if you're not going to go running back in an earlier round, I think 123 is where you can get that type of caliber guy that can be a plug and play in your offense. Whether he's in that kickoff return role with Gainwell, or if he's more of like your change of pace back, give Jaylen Warren a bit of a rest and let him get off the field so he's not getting as much of that wear and tear from being your primary back. So love the pick.
All right, so that means we've got a new safety, defensive lineman, and running back, 5th round at pick 156. I'm taking care of the corner position, so trying to get somebody in there to rebuild the depth, get a guy for the future possibly, and I went Noel Williams. Noel's out of California, was in the Shrine Bowl. He weighed in at 6 foot and 3/8, 199 pounds. Just under 31-inch long arms and a 4.5 flat on his 40 with a 1.54 split. 19 reps on a bench, too, which is very impressive for a corner. So tough against the run, a good cover dude coming out of Cal. Not elite speed, but you're just not going to get too many guys like that later on in the draft. And it's someone that Pittsburgh brought in already. Of the 15 prospects they've brought in for a draft visit brought to Pittsburgh, Noel Williams is on that list. So I felt like it made sense to put him. He's definitely someone Pittsburgh is targeting.
Yeah, I like this one again. Again, this is probably a top 2, top 3 need for the team. His college tape looks really good. He did have 14 career interceptions in his collegiate career, 7 of which came this previous season. So, listen, that's something that Pittsburgh's for a long time. We had cornerbacks that just had bricks for hands, dropping wide open passes that could have been interceptions, create some potential offensive moments. This is a guy that could come in and easily have an impact on the defensive side of the ball pretty quickly. So again, top need addressed. I love it. This is typically how it goes. It may not be the best guy in the draft, but again, similar to the defensive tackle position or defensive line, it's a deep draft for corners. And so I think this is a great potential. I think he offers a lot of things. He's in college. He typically operated out of press man and cover 3 looks from what it says. I don't know how much Pittsburgh likes to run cover 3, if at all. Is it? I just always feel like I feel like Minka's always going back deep middle. And so I don't always get a look at that secondary, but this is a guy that could come in and really turn the tides if he can perform even subparly to what his collegiate career was. If you get half of those interceptions, 3 or 4 picks a season as a backup corner, that's pretty solid.
Then with press man being a specialty of his, that's a specialty of Joey Porter Jr. too. So now you're talking a couple of guys that can get right up in the face of the wide receiver and kind of deter their path right at the beginning and disrupt that timing when you're starting to go against guys like Joe Burrow. Quick release, elite wide receivers. They're trying to do stuff in timing. If you can jam them at the line of scrimmage, you screw up the timing.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh bringing Williams in for that draft visit kind of put me on to him. And watching not only how physical he is with the run defense, but his willingness to get involved in it is a good factor for why I think we should bring him in if he's available to us at that spot. And we haven't addressed corner already. He's willing to get down and dirty in the trenches, and Pittsburgh loves those kind of guys, especially when you can diagnose, okay, this is a run play and you got to fill the box up. And if we can have Nick Eamon-Wari, Noel Williams, and Peyton Wilson all crashing down on Derrick Henry, I'm loving that, especially at the goal line, being able to be physical in that box and prevent them from punching it into the end zone in the division that's all about the physical football. So love this pick for a late round corner.
So I'm going to have a little bit more of a theme with this next guy here. Doing my first double dip at 185, which is the 6th round pick. I am taking Yahya Black. Yahya is a defensive lineman, 6'5", 336 pounds with 35-inch long arms. I was going to talk about that arm length. He's not the quick guy. He's a slower dude, but he is an immovable force with fantastic length, where I think you're automatically upgrading your backup nose tackle position. So we're in those short yardage and goal line situations, you have a legitimate second defensive tackle to put in there to try to stop that Derrick Henry rush for that 1 yard gain. Let's say you're fortunate enough to be in a situation where you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles and that tush push. Now you got some real beef up there that you can stick in the middle and try to keep people from pushing you back when they're trying to get that 1 yard or getting that 6 inches to get in the end zone or whatever it may be. There's potential for him developing even into a starting nose tackle. So what my image would be is that he develops to your nose tackle. Once Cam retires, you move Keanu Benton out to his defensive end spot, and now your defensive line is set for years to come. But I feel like we have to have a just like big run stuffing nose tackle to have success. And this is a guy who absolutely fits that bill.
Yeah, unfortunately, with where he's at now, athletic wise, I doubt we'd get a ton of pass rush from him, like you said. But again,
Right.
those goal line situations. I mean, having someone that's a big body. I mean, 6'6", 336 was it?
6'5", 336.
Okay, I mean, just a massive build that Pittsburgh hasn't had. I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't had a big defensive tackle that I can think of since Casey Hampton. I mean, and this guy's not quite that large size-wise, but the weight's there.
Yeah.
And so I love that pick. That, you know, in this, a lot of these late round picks, we talk about it. You're shooting at lumps of clay. You're trying to get a lump of clay. This guy literally is a lump of clay. I mean, figure out how to move him around, figure out what to do with him, and allow him just to use that size and strength to help on those goal line stances, to help on those 4th and 1, 3rd and short, whatever situations that Pittsburgh last year just couldn't seem to stop. So I love the pick.
Yeah, have him fall down in front of that tush push and good luck moving him. I mean, let alone get some push from behind and kind of counteract and do like the reverse tush push, I guess. But yeah, definitely a lump of clay guy, but more like a brick wall lump of clay kind of guy. Like he's been fired and he's now just a brick wall to shove on that line. So yeah, definitely a good option to throw in those designed run plays for sure.
And that's my goal with these later round guys, is finding a guy who has at least one thing that's a specialty. I don't necessarily want a guy who's like well-rounded and kind of okay at everything. Give me a guy who has one trait that is a dominating trait, and that's what we've got there. Final pick for me. This is going to be a familiar name. At least the last name should be a familiar name. So here we go. I haven't seen anyone do it in a mock draft yet, but I think it makes way too much sense for us to not do it at least one of our mock drafts. So in the 7th round, I'm picking a position that I do not feel is a need. That's pick number 229. I'm taking linebacker. That's right, off-ball linebacker, Carson Bruner. This is the son of former Steelers tight end Mark Bruner. 6'1", 227. He ran a 4.58 40-yard dash, folks. This is a middle linebacker that can move, and I see him immediately making a splash on special teams, which is very much so necessary since we've moved on from Tyler Matakevich. You're going to try to get this linebacker room with a few less pieces. You need your backup outside linebackers and backup middle linebackers to excel on special teams. I think he's going to be a special teams demon day one and maybe never develop into a guy that you can start on defense as far as a middle linebacker, just being a little bit undersized. But his athleticism, he ought to be able to really make an impact on special teams kick coverage and punt coverage units for quite some time.
Yeah, I like the pick. Just doing a little bit of reading up on him. It seems like he has a very high football IQ, even if he may not possess the physical attributes or the, you know, the output necessarily. But again, I mean, what that reminds me of when I say that to myself, it reminds me of a freaking Josh Dobbs situation where, you know, Dobbs helped Ben on the sidelines. This is a guy that could very much see play designs and look at stuff and help the linebackers in there. But again, just a solid special team player as well. Tackle production was very high in college. And so getting a guy that has the pedigree from his father passed down, you know, and has been in the NFL, played for the Steelers. I love it. I feel like we've been getting those generational pieces. You know, you think about the Haywards, you think about the Porters. Yeah.
Yep.
So
and Nick Herbig, you know,
Herbig.
his big brother was on the team, and you're seeing it over and over and over. There's a theme going on there, and it's too strong a one for me to ignore. And and Mark Bruner's a scout for the team right now. In fact, he's in charge of like the West Coast. So he does that whole Washington area. And yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I could easily see Pittsburgh doing it. You're just looking for somebody who can do something well. And that kind of athleticism at linebacker, I would love to see him flying around on special teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need him to be that contributor on the starting defense with the Cole Holcomb, Patrick Queen, and Peyton Wilson room already kind of filled there. So you can have him sit with those guys, and if he can end up learning the techniques and then maybe putting on a little bit more of the bulk or whatever he needs to do to develop and just contribute on special teams for the time being, then maybe in 4 years when you're down one of the, or two of those guys, he fills in for one of them, and he's either a bridge guy or with luck develops into a contributor on as a starting defender. So he doesn't need to be an immediate plug and play kind of guy. And that's what you're looking for in this kind of late round pick. So love the specialty, as you said there, that he can kind of do what he needs to do. And then, as Cody said, maybe be that sort of sideline advisor for the defense. I love it.
Yeah, and I think you might even be able to carve a rollout for him in pass defense too, as a coverage linebacker. At 6'1" with a 4.58 40, he's going to be able to run with some tight ends and running backs. So as he develops as a defender, you might even be able to see him start squeaking onto the field in a nickel or dime role.
Yeah, would love to see it. Would love to see the flexibility there. James, it's a solid draft, my friend.
Thank you.
Solid draft. I love how we're getting into different things now, and we're seeing different names. Now it is time to do a live draft. So very excited for this. We are going to do this right now, all 7 rounds. Are you boys ready?
Yeah, man.
Ready and willing.
So if you're not watching on YouTube, we will explain kind of what's going on as we look through this first round. We do get trade offers on the thing that we're using right now. We can look through them. I don't think we're going to accept any. Although that one's not that interesting, actually. Pittsburgh would potentially consider that just with the next year draft. But I don't know if you guys want to just ignore these for this draft or look through them and actually discuss them, whatever you guys are feeling.
Gonna have to get a little closer here because I'm not really able to actually see what.
Here, I can make
offered.
it bigger as well.
There we are.
Yeah,
Actually,
go as big as you can.
So that's as big as I can. So Pittsburgh, this one's the New Orleans Saints offering pick 40, pick 71, and a second round next year for pick 21 and 229. The only thing that's enticing about this is moving basically 229 up to 71 and getting that second round for next year. We also were offered the 26th and a second round next year from the Rams for the same 2 picks, and a lot of picks from the Miami Dolphins for this pick 21. We get 48, 98, 155, and a second and a third next year.
I don't want to go all the way back to 48. That's too far of a jump to me. That's almost out of the second round.
Same thing in my mind, kind of same thing with 40 here, unless you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this one, we don't get another pick this year. So I don't think there's any point in accepting that one.
What I have done in a lot of my mock drafts, as you know, my title of mock draft maniac down here, I'm doing a ton of them all the time. I will often counter the pick to move back later in this round and get a little bit of next year's capital. One, because the draft next year is in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure they're trying to stock up on all those kind of picks. Going to be going. So if you want to meet up with us down there, Cody and I are for sure planning on going. But in any case, sometimes that will also often prompt another trade when you go back to 26, and you can kind of build the capital there. But I'm fine with just skipping it and taking a guy here as well.
So going through the first round real quick, big names that came off the board: Shedeur Sanders, Austin Genty, Cameron. I mean, all the guys you'd expect to come off. Excuse me. James, the one safety, Malachi Starks, came off the board, and Derek Harmon both came off the board, the 2 picks before us. So again, here we're looking
lately, and I think that's realistic because Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, a lot of my early on targets are being highly valued right now in the mock draft world. So it seems more likely that none of those guys are going to be there, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Nick Emanwari is here
Mhm.
as well. You just talked about that. You also have Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas, and then really Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle, and Walter Nolan are the two other guys that I think we'd probably consider here. Unless you wanted to go offensive guard, Tyler Booker. I don't have a lot of details on Tyler Booker, 6'4", 321, sturdy anchor at the guard who can dish out punishment, but not sure how much Pittsburgh's going to prioritize that offensive line when there's still big needs on the defense. The defense is something. So I don't know what you guys are thinking here.
Well,
I'm not.
maybe we look at the cornerback room, and I'm not in on Jahdae Barron because of the size and arm length. He's like 5'10" with 29-inch long arms, which the chances of a guy that size being a successful outside corner are extremely low. But I'm unable to read because the print's so small. Do we have Trey Amos available still?
So Shavon Revel, the
Uh-huh.
East Carolina 6'1", 194 corners here. Benjamin Morrison, 6', 193 is here, and Trey Amos is also here, 6', 195.
Gotcha. So we got some nice options of guys who could be a good outside corner if you wanted to go that direction. It's at least an option. Trey Amos is almost 6'1", 195 pounds, only 31 and a quarter on the arm length. But he did run a 4.4 340, 1.6, 10-yard split, 13 bench reps. So he'd fit the mold other than the arm length as far as height, weight, and speed. I don't have a 40 on Shavon Revel. So I can't tell you what we've got on him. But he's 6'2", 194 with great length. So if he ran a good 40 at his pro day, he should be someone to consider as well.
Shavon Revel, and you're saying he didn't do anything at the combine.
No, so we'd be looking for pro day results on him. But
I
East
believe
Carolina.
a lot of the top corners, I don't remember if Revel was one of them, but a lot of them are coming off of injury, which is why some of them haven't tested yet. I know Morrison was one of them as well that was coming off of a big injury last year. But I also know that from other drafts that I've done that Barron, as James said, projects to be more of a slot corner kind of guy because of that size. So I also like looking a bit more at Amos or Revel or Morrison if we're going to go with the corner here.
Yes, Revel was injured, so he did not do anything at the pro day either. So I'm okay with the Trey Amos. I'm okay with trying something different here. The speed is very intriguing to me, especially when you consider the speed that's in the NFL right now. With, we talked about earlier with your mock draft and the safety. There's a lot of those top teams have good tight ends. A lot of those top teams also have top speed wide receivers as well. So
Yep.
I'm on board for Trey Amos in this position if you guys want to try something new.
I like it.
I think it'd be a fun thing to do and a possibility for Pittsburgh here. Because I think what we're going to see is there's a good chance that these top defensive linemen are all gone by the time Pittsburgh gets there. And then you're looking at the next available best defensive lineman being nose tackles. And I don't see the value in drafting a nose tackle in the first round.
Yep. All right, Trey Amos it is.
Unless, of course, that nose tackle can also rush the passer, then I'm in. That's my thing with Kenneth Grant is he's a nose tackle who's very good at rushing the passer. So I'd be perfect with a guy like Kenneth Grant. In fact, he would be one of my top preferences.
That is fair. I'm not even going to entertain either of those trade offers that we just got.
Grant or Harmon. If either of those guys are available, I'd be running the pick in. Yeah.
Run it in.
So sitting here at 83, Jack Beck, wide receiver TCU, just went off the board. I'm just going to kind of scroll through here, name some guys that have came off the board that we would probably talk about or be interested in. Alfred Collins, defensive tackle. Jackson Dart went to the Cleveland Browns. Sorry for your lack of cheer now. I'm just trying to see who else here might have gone that we would be. Darian Porter, cornerback, even though we already addressed that. Kenneth Grant went at 47.
Wow.
That's a drop.
They've got that wrong.
So Sitting here now, the first guy on the board is a running back, Quinshawn Junkins from
Oh,
Ohio
wow.
State. And then you have a safety, Andrew Makuba from Texas. Not sure if you guys want me to look at a specific position. First defensive tackle on the board is Shamar Turner, excuse me.
Okay.
I'm trying to see what else is here. Cameron Scatabo is still available, just saying.
Yeah,
I would
we could
love
use
it.
some new names though.
I know.
You guys have used him in both your mocks already.
I think I went with Travion Henderson in mine actually,
I think
because he was available at the third round.
I mean, I can tell you, but I'm pretty sure you went Scatabo. Oh no, you did.
And Quinshawn Judkins being there would be the other guy that I would like to take if we do go running back. And he was the other piece of that two-headed beast in the Ohio State run game. So he's definitely a high-profile running back kind of guy, but I don't think running back is the biggest need. I think it could be addressed later on in the draft.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a enticing prospect to see still available in the third round.
I was looking up some stats on Andrew Makuba. He's only he's 5'11", 186, with a 4.45 40. He interests me a little bit there, but I feel like Pittsburgh's looking for more of the size at that safety position that James drafted earlier. I don't know if that's really worth looking at. There's also Ransom, the safety from Ohio State, is here as well. Could be a depth piece at that safety position.
What do we have on available defensive linemen, Cody?
On D lineman, you're looking at Shamar Turner, Joshua Farmer's here, CJ West, Howard Cross, Jordan Phillips. Those are the top 5 guys. Joshua Farmer, again, that was a guy that I liked.
So if
sucks.
we went the Jordan Phillips route, he's known for being a dominant run stuffer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the biggest dude in the world. He's 6'1" and 5'8", 312 though, with shorter arms, but 29 reps on the bench. If you went that route, you've got a dominant run stopping nose tackle, and you can kick Keanu Benton outside the defensive end, where I think he's a little bit better of a fit.
I'm already down for that, just for the simple fact that I don't want to go later than the third for our first defensive lineman.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that would concern me, is waiting too long to get one. And at least that's somebody who we know they've got an extreme specialty in one area.
Yep. All right, Jordan Phillips it is. Advancing to pick 123 now. Will Howard just went to the Tennessee Titans, in case anyone was wondering.
Well, I'm kind of glad because I know Pittsburgh's high on him, and I don't think we want to be addressing the quarterback with Will Howard, but yeah, that's my personal preference.
So we can talk about this trade offer, and you guys can tell me if you want to do it or not. Philadelphia is offering us pick 134 and 161 for 123 and 229.
Are we able to hide that for the time being so we can see who's available? Because I don't hate the trade, but I would like to see what the options are here first.
Yeah. So Billy Bowman, safety from Oklahoma, is the first name on the board. He's only 5'9", 192. Kobe Bryant, the corner from Kansas. Then you're looking at, I'm trying to look for needs. Quinn Ewers, quarterback, is here. Howard Cross, the D tackle's here.
I kind of like the trade back. It gets us a little bit of a slightly higher capital, and I don't see any of these guys, especially since we've already addressed defensive tackle and corner, and those were kind of the 2 guys there that I thought were the prospects I would have gone with if we hadn't addressed here. Kobe Bryant is a guy that I think would be a solid pickup if we hadn't already addressed corner in round 1. So that's my thoughts, but I'm just throwing stuff out there.
What were the specifics on the trade again? I didn't.
We would be giving up pick 123 and 229 and getting 134 and 161.
Oh,
yeah.
So we're not really moving very far back, and we're moving our 7th round pick into a much higher pick. What's that? Probably like a 5th round pick.
Yeah, I think it's a late round 5th, mid round 5th.
Yeah, I'm with Nick. I think let's take that because it's not really going to negatively impact who we have available too much.
Okay, so we are up again at 134. Again, if you want to entertain the idea of Pittsburgh bringing in a quarterback, Quinn Ewers is there.
Oof, no.
I'm just letting you guys know. I'm not saying I want him. I'm just saying he's there.
There are QBs that I didn't mind at like the Senior Bowl, a couple of those guys, but I think if you want to take a QB in this draft, if you're not literally throwing the dart at like Jackson Dart or someone like that earlier on, then my vote is to wait until like the 5th or 6th round. And because otherwise you're taking a guy in the 3rd or 4th round that you know isn't going to be your long-term solution anyway. And you want that 3rd or 4th round pick to be somebody that's going to develop into your starter. So I think it's kind of a waste to take a guy that's a 3rd or 4th round quarterback that you don't think is going to be any better long-term than Mason Rudolph is right now.
And I know this is kind of an outlier, but just look at the Brock Purdy situation. You know, you can feasibly take a shot at a guy in a late round, and if it doesn't pan out, oh well, it was a late round pick. But if it does, you've just got your starter for pennies on the dollar. So I agree with not going quarterback here, especially with a guy like Quinn Ewers, who, like you said, might be a serviceable backup for years to come, but that's not what you're looking for in these rounds.
Yeah. I will tell you someone that interests me a little bit is Ollie Gordon II. I don't know if you guys know much about him. Running back out of Oklahoma State. 6'1", 226, a little bit bigger. I mean, drastically bigger than Jaylen Warren. Gives us another option for more power running. Ran a 4.61 at the combine with a 1.6 10-yard split. Didn't do a bench press. But that name does stick out to me as another position of need.
He ran really hard at the Senior Bowl, and that really stuck out. But the lack of speed is a little concerning for me. I feel like that just puts you right back into the mold of what you've been doing with Najee Harris and James Conner and guys that are in like, you know, the mid 4.6s at best with their speed. I'd like to see somebody a little faster, but I could see Pittsburgh doing that for sure just because of their love for those big bruisers that run hard.
Who are the top guard options right now?
Top guard options right now are Garrett Dellinger from LSU, Luke Kandra from Cincinnati, Miles Frazier from LSU.
I don't mind a Kandra or a Frazier here. I don't know what you guys think about that, just to shore up some of the depth on the offensive line. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, Pittsburgh hasn't done much with it yet other than signing a guy off the Patriots, who they, I believe, let go. But I'm fine with running back or guard here. If there's another guy that's screaming out to you guys, though, I'm just having a hard time reading it on my screen right now.
No, you're good. I mean, I'd also be fine with Frazier. I think that would be fun to entertain the idea that they bring in 2 Fraziers on the interior offensive line. It's always fun to play around with those scenarios as well.
Yeah, good size on that kid, too. 6'5" and 5'8", 317, 32 3/4 inch long arms. 5'2", 440 is not the fastest in the world, but he's a guard. 27 reps on the bench shows he's been working hard in the gym. So I think that's a pretty nice option, really, when you're talking 4th round. It could be another Mason McCormick type where you've got a guy with potential to be a starter in the long term.
All right, Frazier it is. Here we go.
Miles Frazier.
And then we're up again here at 156. And I'm just going to look at all available. Top positions are running back, D tackles, and quarterbacks right now. I don't know if you guys want to look at a specific position again or not. I'm just kind of looking to see if any names pop out here.
I think this is a 5th round pick at this point.
Yep.
Yes.
And what number is this?
156.
56. I think this is. I don't think Pittsburgh will wait much longer than this to get a running back. What do we have available at running back?
So running back, you're looking at RJ Harvey, the first one from UCF. He's only 5'8", but is also a very good pass catcher as well.
Yeah, that's the fast dude I just took in mine.
Yeah, Kyle, and I don't mind doubling up on that. Like if he's the best available, if we like that, Jaden Blue's also available, but he's projected 195 in this, so there's time there. But again, Pittsburgh doesn't go later than this. I'm okay with Harvey again, honestly. I think that the production we could get out of him on special teams as well adds value to that pick.
The only other thing I would entertain here is if we don't end up getting Aaron Rodgers, I could see Pittsburgh going after like a Dylan Gabriel. He showed his ability to be able to manage an offense. I believe he would be able to be an option if Mason Rudolph were to go down. That would give us some depth over Skylar Thompson. But it would depend again on whether or not we land Rodgers, because if we have Rodgers, then there's not a need to take a quarterback here. And I don't know that there necessarily even is without Rodgers, but I think that would be something that Pittsburgh might consider.
I'm cool with the thought of a quarterback. I don't like Dylan Gabriel at all. I thought he was awful at the Senior Bowl, and he's small as hell.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want a 5'11" quarterback who, in his first appearance in an all-star game against elevated competition, struggled mightily on the field.
Sure.
So I don't know what else there is available at quarterback.
I think I saw Riley Leonard was also available. If Tyler Shock was available, which I don't think I saw him on the board here, I would jump at Tyler Shock. But
yeah, Tyler Shock is not on the board.
Yeah, Riley Leonard could be an option. He's that typical size, almost 6'4", 216. That's kind of a little more what I think they would be looking at now after how things didn't work so well with the shorter quarterback last year.
I think I'm going to take a shot at the quarterback position in this situation just to have it on the board and on the record for us. We like to have different things here. We haven't really drafted a quarterback, I think, in most, if not all. Well, I think I might have drafted a quarterback. So I'm okay with the Riley Leonard if you guys are. Okay. Riley Leonard here.
Shot.
The Philadelphia Eagles are trying to give us our pick back. I'm going to reject this just out of not being likely to happen.
Right.
But to let you guys know, they're offering us 164 and 229 for 161 and a 7th round next year.
No.
Yeah. So not going to do
Let's
that.
try Philly.
And also, so James, real quick, at 161, RJ Harvey is still available.
And we have not addressed the running back position yet.
We have not. So
I like it.
If you're cool with us, I know you don't want to use the same name all the time, but I'm okay.
No, I
with it.
mean, yeah, if he's best available at the position, I think Pittsburgh has to address running back in this draft.
And him
Okay.
falling to a later round makes it different enough, in my opinion, like to be able to get a more valuable, a guy that we would have taken earlier, later. Why not?
Yeah.
So the top names right now: JJ Pegues, D tackle from Ole Miss; Jack Kaiser, linebacker from Notre Dame. I'm also curious just to see what safeties are here. Hunter Woller's the number 1 safety here. Big size, 6'2", 213.
He was a 4.57 40 at the combine with a 1.54 split, so that's really good on his 10-yard split. 37-inch vert and a 10-foot broad, so he should have good short area quickness and acceleration.
Check Maxon Hook from Toledo, safety as well. I'm curious.
Hook was a Senior Bowl guy, 6 foot and 4/8, so 6'1.5", 202, 4.55 40 with a 1.55 split. Did not bench, 34.5-inch vert, 10.4 on the broad. So similar athleticism.
I feel like I don't want to go much further without taking a safety, or unless we double dip at that defensive line position now.
So the thing to me, look at the safety room, like realistically, the top 3 spots are concrete, and then you figure Miles Killebrew into that as well.
Yeah.
So if we take a 6th round safety, he's just competing with Watts from last year. You wouldn't expect him to take a spot from Juan Thornhill or anyone higher up the depth chart. But JJ Pegues, on the other hand, they did bring him in already. So he's a possibility. An athletic dude with experience as a goal line fullback and 7 touchdowns in his career, I believe, rushing also.
Dang.
Also some experience as a tight end. So he's definitely someone on their radar.
Okay, so look up one more guy, and then if not this guy, we'll probably go JJ. But check Ricky White, wide receiver, UNLV. Pittsburgh still always takes a shot at freaking wide
Ricky
receiver.
White is a wide receiver that I've been high on, and I know we haven't talked about him much on the show, but I believe after we ran my mock, I mentioned him a bit. Electric special teams guy. Watching his tape, he can get the separation, and he also has been known to block a punt or two. So I could see him being an early contributor on special teams, and then might be able to make his way onto the wide receiver depth chart after a little while. But I've been very high on Ricky White for quite some time. Loved the tape. But James, if you've got some of his measurables up there.
I got you. Yep. He's 6'1", 184. He ran a 4.61 40-yard dash with a 1.55 split, 36-inch on his vert, 10.3 on the broad. So it should be good short area quickness and acceleration, just not good long speed.
I don't know.
I think
I'm up for a 50-50 between a wide receiver and that second D tackle right now.
I think part of his game too is also coming from his experience as a route runner. Like he's able to make guys bite on things, and so it's not necessarily his speed that gets him the separation, but just able to kind of shimmy his way through and make guys bite on moves.
All right, they've already met with JJ. We traded for DK. I still think Pittsburgh has a chance of drafting a wide receiver or obviously bringing some in undrafted. I say we go JJ with the pick. He's a steal here, listed at 148 at 185.
I like it. I just wanted to give my Ricky White.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
What pick was that, Cody? That was the 6th round, 185?
185, correct.
That was our natural pick. Okay.
So that draft ends with Trey Amos, the corner, being our 21st overall pick. And then Jordan Phillips at 83, Miles Frazier from LSU, the offensive guard, at 134, Riley Leonard, quarterback, Notre Dame, at 156, and then RJ Harvey, running back from UCF, at 161, and JJ Pegues, defensive tackle from Ole Miss, rounding that up. So
that'd be a solid class, man. That'd be
especially if we don't get Rodgers. I wouldn't mind not taking a quarterback if we get Rodgers, but with him still contemplating retirement or the Steelers taking a quarterback there, I think is a good idea. But if it might free up a pick if we can land a quarterback.
I agree with Nick completely on that. If you end up signing Rodgers, don't bother drafting a quarterback. I don't want to see another situation like the year they took Kenny Pickett and then grabbed the guy in the 7th round and he didn't get a single snap all preseason long.
Yep.
Well, no point in having a late round dude that you don't even have the time to put on the field.
Yep. All right, y'all. That's going to wrap up today's show. We're excited. This is technically draft 4.0 and 5.0.
Yeah.
So looking forward to a few more mock drafts. We might do one live or a couple live. We might actually go live on Facebook and YouTube and share that with you guys. We will post to social media if we get that planned and scheduled. But again, can't thank you guys enough for listening or watching. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews of our podcast. Make James very happy. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, with special guest Nick Pretzel, the Mock Draft Maniacs, signing off.
Peace.
Now it's time.